Good afternoon. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Maxim Romanov. I'm an academic and I come from Sochi University. My intervention here will be about our legacy of the city after the games. So to start a little bit the presentation, this is just a brief overview of the sport facilities, which was actually the core part of the games. Maybe you have already heard about this during your stay here, but however I decided to take a very broad outlook. So here is the Olympic Park on the left side. The Olympic Park, or the coastal cluster, had Olympic Stadium, had two ice hockey arenas, had an ice figure skating arena, a figure skating and short track, an Olympic oval arena, and curling center, which were all regrouped in one single place called Olympic Park, with a medal plaza in the middle, and an athletes village, and the main media center nearby. And the mountain cluster, located in Krasnaya Polyana, had a Laura biathlon and cross-country skiing, an alpine center, a snowboard and freestyle center, a ski jumping and Nordic combined center, two athletes village, and a mountain media center. The two clusters were connected between each other with a light metro and a new built highway, making the transportation time from one to another only for 30 minutes. Thus, we believe making it one of the most compact, one of the most innovative games for the first time. So on this slide, I made a little summary on the two slides. The first one is the coastal, dedicated to the coastal one, and the other one for the mountain cluster. On each venue, what was its role for games time and what is it now? So the Olympic Park, which used to be actually a sport campus, now has a street circuit and hosts a Formula 1 Grand Prix each year in May, and is just a tourist attraction site, very popular tourist attraction site in Sochi, featuring many events. The Olympic Stadium hosted opening and closing ceremonies, both for Olympic and Paralympic, and now, later on, it hosted 2018 FIFA World Cup matches, and now it's a home arena for the Sochi Football Club, professional football club. The Большой Ice Dome featured ice hockey competitions, including the finals, and now it's a home arena for the Sochi hockey venue. Another hockey arena, so-called Shaiba Arena, also hosted ice hockey competitions, and now it is a sport facility of the Sirius Educational Center. The Iceberg Skating Palace hosted figure skating and short track speed skating, and now it's a concert hall functioning all year round, and also a sport venue hosting figure skating and short track competitions. Other arenas, so-called or Olympic Oval, hosted speed skating, and now it is converted into a tennis academy, hosting for educational purpose, but also hosting the events, sporting events. Curling center used to be curling, and still curling. The Olympic Village, the coastal Olympic Village, it was an athletes' housing, and now it's a residential area. And the main media center is also now a part of the Sirius Educational Center. On this slide, I just made the same summary, but for the mountain cluster. So the Samki slide instated the bob and luge track we had, which hosted bobsleigh and tobogganing and luge competitions, and to still. Laura cross-country and biathlon skiing, actually it was also biathlon and cross-country skiing, and now it's part of a ski resort, and it is also a sport venue used a lot for training. The feature of this particular venue is that it is located quite high. Its altitude is about 1,300 meters above sea level, so it's not easy to run at this altitude, so we consider this venue to be very important for training our athletes. Rosa Hutter Alpine Resort used to be hosted alpine skiing and used to be a sport venue in the part of the actual ski resort. The same is Rosa Hutter Extreme Park, ski jumping center, ski jumping and Nordic combined. 2 Olympic villages in the mountain cluster who had athlete housing, and now it's a residential areas also. And the last but not least, the Mountain Media Center now became a casino. So everything is functioning, all the venues are well being used. Next 2 slides are dedicated to some of the utilities, infrastructure, transportation, power, and so on. Basically, because to build the venues, the Olympics is not only to build the venues, but the majority of funds went into building the whole infrastructure around the venues. A nice arena itself, you cannot host the competitions, you need to be connected to power, connected to roads, etc. So basically, the transportation infrastructure included the renovation of the Sochi Airport, construction from zero Sochi so-called light metro, it's a railway track actually between Adler and Krasnaya Polyana, a highway nearby, a cable car network in Krasnaya Polyana. Actually, the whole transportation concept of the games, Sochi Games, was rail and cable to avoid traffic jams due to the relief. A double track for existing railway along the coast, 2 Sochi city highways, bypass highways, and then the city ring roads, pedestrian crossings, junctions, etc. This is some key utility infrastructure prepared for games. 2 power stations, power supplies and gas supply lines for the city, sewage treatment facilities, and just simply city utility renovation, power, water, sewage, gas, fiber optic, etc. Accommodation. For the games, there were 46 new or renovated facilities built, hotels and lodgings, featuring about 27,000 room capacity. So as of today, we have 23 5-star hotels, 47 4-star hotels, 173 star hotels, and 8 international brands. Hyatt, Accor, which is Mercure and Pullman, Carlson Residor, this is Radisson and Park Inn brands, Rixos, the Turkish brand, Marriott, Capella, it's a Solis brand in Krasnaya Polyana. This one, FRHI, this is so I'm sorry, this is just let me check. Swiss Hotel. This is Swiss Hotel in downtown Sochi, and Louvre Hotels, this is Tulipin. But I think we believe the most important legacy from the accommodation side was introduced certification, or as we call in Russia, classification practice. When preparing for Sochi Games, there became a law that all the hotels in Sochi need to be classified to stars, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, etc. It first was used in Sochi here. Later on, this practice was spread to all the cities in Russia hosting 2018 FIFA World Cup. And now it's gonna be spread to all Russian hotels. Now in 2019, a law was adopted that all the hotels featuring more than 50 room capacity need to be classified. In 2020, this will be all the hotels featuring 15 room capacity, and since 2018, all the hotels need to have a classification rank. Accessibility, also an important part. The IOC and the IPC paid very much attention to this question, well, just simply because the athletes are competing, only a barrier-free environment, but also because of the fact that spectators come in, and based on some estimations, up to maybe 10% of the population may need a barrier-free environment. It's not only people who have any physical disabilities or injuries. It may be children, older people, people with strollers, so etc. So basically, the accessibility in Sochi was first of all, the accessible venues, car parks, entries, vertical and horizontal path, spectator seats, change rooms, toilets, etc. But it was also the transportation and the city amenities, pedestrian walks, signage, and so on. And finally, regarding the accessibility, which we feel was an important legacy for the country, a design standard, a construction design standard in, as far as I remember, 2012 was adopted. Actually, the current, at the moment, Russian standards were updated, and the best IPC practices on barrier-free environment construction were included in the standards and are now used for all Russia. And just finally, the city look. Actually, for the games, we've done a lot of work of preparation. Generally, the city parks, squares, fountains, beaches, etc. So the city is just simply a pleasant place to live, and the same fact that we are here, I think, proves this fact. So all of these transformations in the city came up in the fact that Sochi became a quite important MICE tourism destination. On these graphs, I tried to make a short summary on the number of events taking place in Sochi at the post-Olympic time. So we see it's a constant rise. Sochi, actually, I would say that at the Soviet time, it was majorly a health tourism resort. Then for the 20 years, it was like sun and beach resort, and now, since the Olympics, third and fourth, very important, it becomes a destination for MICE tourism and for ski tourism. This is the statistics on the tourist arrivals in post-Olympic Sochi. We see that the amount is more or less stable and is about 6 million. It included everything: sun and beach, health, ski tourism, and MICE tourism. This is the statistics. I made it a little bit bigger. This is a statistic since the Soviet period. Actually, we in Russia, we like to take Soviet period some kind of reference point. In Soviet period, Sochi featured late 80s, just before 1991, 4.5 million tourists each year. And then, when the Soviet Union disappeared, the number of tourists began to go down. And in 1997, a program was adopted to help city become a tourist resort again. So the number of tourists began to go up till 2007. 2007 was the year when the city was selected as an Olympic city to host the Olympic Games. And since that time, a construction began. All the information that I was describing at the previous slide. So this, of course, influenced the number of tourists for that period, and since 2013, it went up again. Very important, I think, slide is the amount of population of the city. I think which is also proves what was given above about the quality of life. Number of people living in Sochi is constantly rising, at least since the Olympics. This is the information about people who live constant time. So now we are about more than 500,000. But if you add to this number people who come for a very short period of time for construction or for tourist industry, For some estimations, this number may go up to 700,000. And well, this is the short information, sorry for information, short information about the revenues in billion rubles of key industry, tourism, transportation and catering. And this is the average salary based on statistics, which goes up, slowly but goes up. Well, basically that's it. Maybe if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer.
Okay, is there any questions? I would like to, I think it was a very informative presentation.
Thank you for your presentation. Yesterday we have an excursion in the central Sochi, and my colleagues and I have noticed that some of the hotels that were built to the Olympic Games were quite empty. And one might suppose that this situation is for other Olympic objects as well. Is it so? And how owners of the hotels deal with it? I mean, as I guess right, yearly the amount of tourists is rising from the 2014. But in the Olympic, there was instant big amount of tourists, and so hotels were built for that big amount. And this big amount have never been ever again. Is it right? And how the owners deal with it? Thank you.
Okay, good question. Well, let's separate it in two parts. For the venues, this actually well, this is the number of events we had in post-Olympic Sochi. If you go to the city administration internet site, for example, they give you the list of events, and each venue, I see each venue is well used quite often. Once a month I see it, more or less. So, of course, this is a big problem in legacy, and we try to deal with it by both regional, national, international events. As for the hotels, as far as I remember, I have heard the average capacity was about 80%. I think that's what they say about the hotels. So if a hotel is empty, well, there is a seasonal impact, of course. It's not a constant situation. But basically what they say that the hotels are all functioning and functioning quite well. Okay, thank you.
Are there, Doc?
Yes, thank you for a very interesting talk. I'm really curious about this area. So we here in our conference, we do economic forecasting.
Okay.
And I'm curious, in your position, you must be planning also for the future, looking out 5-year, 10-year. What do you expect for Sochi? Will there be another World Cup or Olympic, or what big events do you think might happen here?
Okay, thank you for the question. Well, regarding the forecast, this is the forecast we have so far for the industry. Actually, we don't, to my knowledge, we don't plan any big events so far. The only big event we still have, I would say, constantly is Formula 1 now in the Olympic every May. As for the other ones, I don't think we have a large-scale event so far. But basically, once again, I would say that at the level of regional and national events, some international, maybe not that big as Olympic, we are quite present. We are quite present for 5 years already. So we basically think these trends will stay at this level.
Dear colleagues, I from our Russian team, I'd like to say thank you for Sochi State University for supporting in organizing the conference, because rector of the university, Galina Romanova, helped us with organizing of discussions and some activities in time of this conference. And thank you very much for your cooperation.
Thank you.